Hello and welcome to Lotus Yoga and Counseling. As you can see, I'm doing something a little bit different today. I am actually making a video. That's my new tattoo and it hurts a lot. Where I'm actually going to make a video and we're going to do some artsy stuff, and we're going to talk about Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart, which is where I got the idea for the artsy stuff that we're going to do. So you can follow along or you can just hang out and watch. Either way, let's get to it. Alrighty, I have been sat here for way too long trying to figure out what I'm gonna do and how I'm gonna start. So I'm just gonna start. We are gonna talk about crafting, journaling, drawing, coloring, all the good stuff. What to do when you accumulate a bunch of scraps of stuff. When you have a ridiculous amount of paper and coloring books and stickers and just crafting things. What can you do to utilize these things you already have so that you're not having to go out and buy anything new? Even upcycling, we'll talk about some of that. And you may or may not be thinking to yourself, why, how is this any different than all the crafting videos that are out there? Well, I am a mental health counselor and registered yoga teacher, so I love combining crafting and art into things that are self-care oriented and might even include aspects of self-exploration. Something that you can do in between sessions, or if you're not seeing a therapist, this would also be really helpful for you. So, before I get started, I'm going to talk about what I do have for supplies and give you some ideas about what you might want to borrow if you don't have anything like what I have, or if you see what I have and you think, oh, I have something kind of like that. So I'm just going to show you my tools. I have a set of these scissors that have these special edges. I have some punches. I don't know why, but I really like the look of curved edges, I guess you would call them, like rounded edges. So, and actually, I think I probably do know why that is. It's hard edges like this can be a little bit visually overstimulating. So personally, I like the rounded edges. A lot of these tools I got at actually the dollar store, believe it or not. I am pretty sure I got this from the dollar store. This is one of those foam paint brushes. This is an awl, and I use it for making pamphlet stitch journals, and I think I'm even going to do a separate video about that. But as you can see, it's just it's kind of got the edge of a needle, and then this side is something kind of like this, which I think I also got from the dollar store, which is just something that you can use to kind of press down edges, especially if you're gluing them together. A hole punch that I'm pretty sure I've had for 15 years, and actually I'm kind of considering getting a new one because it doesn't work very well. Tweezers, I don't use that one very often. And I have a ridiculous amount of scissors of varying types. Some of them are specifically for sewing and some of them are for crafting in other ways, for bigger stuff. Anyway, so that's some of the stuff I have by way of tools. And then, so I try to keep these things in separate boxes because it's just, when you accumulate a lot of crafting things, it can get really hard to find what you're looking for. I feel like I'm constantly on the lookout for the right type of glue for the kinds of crafts that I'm doing. So I've been using Aleene's Original Clear Gel Tacky Glue, which I think I got at Michael's, but you might even be able to get it at Fred Meyer, Safeway, maybe not Safeway. Stores, that are kind of a one-stop shop grocery store usually have that kind of thing. Staples, I'm sure, Office Depot. And then I also, every now and then, will go on to AliExpress and purchase washi tapes. I try not to buy too much washi tape because I don't use it as much as I think I will when I'm buying them, and they usually come in big packs. So like I've had these washi tapes for at least a year. Little clothespins. I think I got that at the dollar store and I use them for various things. Always have a hot glue gun. And then also, just to say, I save the inside roll of these washi tapes because you can use them as stampers from paint. And that's kind of another thing that I want to just point out is if you find things like this is a really durable cardboard piece, and there's so much that you can do with that. It either helps you make your art piece or it becomes part of your art piece, like it is your art piece. I also kept like a bigger, this is probably from like duct tape, and I use this one specifically for tracing circles. So lots of uses for things that you probably already have around the house. If you're gonna go out and buy any piece, like any tool, I would recommend something like this, a paper cutter, because like I got this one at Michael's. I don't think it was more than $25, and I have used it for a couple of years now. The only thing you ever need to change out is the blade, which is really easily done because there's a little spot there that you can remove the blade, and it's so tiny. I don't know if you can see that, but literally it's just this little triangle of doom. And you can buy replacement packs of these if they get too dull, and that's the only thing that I've ever needed to replace on this. It also, as you can see, has rulers on the top and the bottom, and these parts here, I'll show you why they're important. It helps you to line up, like you can't go any further. So there's one up top and there's one on bottom. So it helps you to make sure things are lined up so that when you make your cuts, your paper is usually straight. And it's also not very big. Like it's pretty compact. I find places like little nooks and crannies in my crafting closet where I just stick these. Yeah, and then just anything else. Like if I buy a magazine and I find, actually this came from a very specific magazine. This comes from Stampington and Company, and these are, this is from a magazine that I got at Barnes & Noble, and it was perforated, so I ripped it out, and it's meant to be used. They want you to use the magazine in your own art, so there's not an issue with copywriting or anything. This was another piece from that magazine. I try to keep all my papers and scraps in one place, but somehow this sticker piece got in the papers. So hold on to all your scraps, because I promise you, you're gonna find a use for it at some point. If you have a little teeny weeny piece like this, I'm sure you're gonna find people on YouTube that are like, no, save that, you'll use it. But if I save every teeny weeny little scrap, I will likely just end up with too much and get overwhelmed and not use it. Okay, so that's it for tools that I can think of. I use all sorts of stuff, to be honest. It really depends on what I'm working on. So let's get into an actual craft with some of these things. Let's start just by talking about journals. One of the reasons that I really love journals is because, especially if you make it yourself, is because you're more likely to use it, and you're more likely to use it regularly. This is a journal that I made most recently, and I keep thinking this is 2 pages, and I embellished it pretty lightly. You'll see other people selling these or making these that cover them in decorations and embellishments, and I actually like to have room for writing, so I try not to make mine too complete when I make them. So there's like a little spot for a mini notebook, which I actually really love how this turned out. And I inked the edges. That was something I forgot to mention, is I also use ink and paints. I don't know what I was doing there. But everything that I used to make this are like, it was all part of my collection of supplies. I didn't go out and buy anything new. In fact, I used a bubble mailer from a recent Amazon purchase to stamp that. And then this is actually a pocket. So let's say you have been encouraged to do some journaling in your previous, like in your off time. What am I trying to say? Let's say you've been tasked to do some journaling. Really good for self-care, a great way to express what you're experiencing. You can put whatever you're feeling in there and no one else ever needs to see it. It doesn't even need to make sense to anyone else. So what I'm gonna do is show you how to make one of these for yourself. And all you need are pieces of paper, whatever kind of paper you want. And this is just regular construction paper that I got at the dollar store. I'm choosing 4 pages, and 4 pages will turn into a lot of journaling space. So like this is the cover, then you have the inside. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you're on this side, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 4 pieces of paper can actually be quite a lot of real estate to journal in. So what you'll need for this, that I just realized I put away yesterday and didn't bring back out for this video. So let me pause and I will go get that. Okay, so what you'll need for this pamphlet stitch, and I promise you this is a lot easier than it sounds like it is. You'll need at least 1 binder clip, I prefer 2. A rather large needle. It doesn't have to be large necessarily, but it needs to be large enough for your embroidery thread. And of course you'll need embroidery thread and scissors. What you're gonna do is take your embroidery thread, you're going to just make sure it's at least the length of the journal. I'm gonna put that off to the side. Put that off to the side. Take your binder clip. You could also just use a paper clip for this. Actually, that might be easier because this paper is thinner. This is some more stuff I've accumulated for journaling, but again, you don't need any of this. So I'm gonna use a paper clip just because it's easier. And see how there is no space between the papers. They're all lined up. Because when you stitch this shut, wherever you stitch it, it's permanent. So you wanna make sure everything is lined up correctly. I put 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom to ensure that everything is gonna stay in place. Going to thread the needle. I chose probably one of my biggest needles for this, so hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Oh my gosh. Come on, there we go. Okay, I'm leaving a little tail of about 4 inches or so. Oh yeah, you also need, you don't need, but it helps to have that awl that I showed you. You could easily do this with just your needle, but I find it, because they're pretty much the same, but I prefer to use the awl. You find the halfway point. Before you punch it through, close this so that it actually goes through that middle. If you don't close it, you can easily go just off center and then it doesn't shut right. Go about 1.5 inches from the top. Make another hole, 1.5 inches or so from the bottom, does not have to be precise, and punch it through. All to the side. Take your threaded needle with the little tail, and you're gonna start with the book or journal open. You're going to feed the needle through the middle hole, grab it from the outside. Now we're looking at the outside, and you're going to thread through the top, through the top, Kailani, and hold on to this tail, and I'll show you why. So now we have something that looks like this. Skip the middle, go all the way to the bottom hole, go through the bottom, pull through. Again, keeping an eye on this, because if you lose it, then you have to rethread it. So now we're looking at the outside. You're gonna go back through this middle hole, pull through, put your giant needle off to the side. So now what you have is one continuous thread and two threads here. And then you should have, or you need to have, the two tails on either side of this middle thread, because what we're gonna do is tie a finishing knot like that. Cut it pretty close, because otherwise you're gonna have those little bits in the way when you're journaling. Remove these guys. Give it a press, and there you have it. You've just done a 3 pamphlet stitch. A 3 stitch pamphlet stitch. I'm gonna put this guy away before I lose it. Where did I even get this? Right here. Okay. So there is your journal. You could stop here and just write in here if you wanted, without doing any embellishments. Like, this is a finished product all on its own. But should you care to embellish it and make it a little bit more unique to your own style and tastes, then continue watching. We'll do that next. What I'm gonna do next to really I wanna reinforce the cover, because again, this was just regular construction paper, so it's pretty flimsy. And let's say, so something like this, I actually really like for specific things. Maybe if I'm going on a trip and I want to hold on to receipts, travel information, like things I had to print out with confirmation codes, that kind of thing. Journaling space to write about what we experienced, anything that is like a memento, like a brochure for a museum that I want to hold on to, I would glue it into here. So this is something I could travel with. That means that I am going to want to make it a little more robust, I guess. So I'm going to I really like the look of this paper. This was an artist testing paints, and she wrote what the name of the paints were, and I just think it looks really pretty. So I'm gonna tear towards me. That ensures that usually the direction you wanted it torn is actually going to it's actually going to tear correctly. If you tear away from yourself, wait, I just tore towards myself. If you tear, never mind. I'm not gonna try to work out what I'm trying to say. Anyway, if you tear towards yourself, first of all, you get this edge, which some people like. And actually, I might get my inking stuff and show you how you can decorate and make things look a little more cohesive with ink. So let me grab that. All right, so I have a couple of stamps. I actually have some more coming in that I just ordered from AliExpress. I'm super excited about that. What I have here that you do not need to have is Distress Oxide ink from Tim Holtz. I have a little ink dauber, which definitely still has some of that weathered wood ink on it, so I need, or it's one of these, so I need to get some of that off of there, otherwise I'm going to be mixing color. And I'm going to ink the edges in a second. I'm just getting rid of this, and honestly, I could save what I'm doing right here, and that could be a little embellishment I use later, because I really like circles, and I'm getting the edges, look how much more ink that was. I could save this and use it as the background of a bookmark or something. Wow, there was a lot of ink on this. I should probably have more of these so I'm not mixing color so much. I don't know. All right, I could be doing this forever apparently, so I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna use the vintage photo one. That one is a really good one that isn't too overwhelming. So I hold on to it pretty, I try to make it taut so that it's not, the ink isn't gonna go everywhere. It's easier to hold if you've got a real grip on it from the middle, if that makes any sense. You can see what I'm doing. So now you can see that because I tore it the way that I did, this this kind of underlying paper that wasn't, that doesn't have the finish on it, is really picking up the distress ink nicely. Because you might be able to see this, I hope you can, but see the shiny kind of glossy part of this picks it up and distributes the ink differently than the underlying raw paper that it got exposed when I ripped it. So I will put this aside. I'm gonna use the tacky glue. I might have to use the hot glue gun as well, just because these are two very different types of paper that I'm trying to combine, and usually when that happens you need kind of to mix the glues, really make sure that it's going to stay. I'm going to line this up because I like the look of that, and this is where a tool like this can be useful. I can use it to get all of the edges. It also is, you know, you can't see it, but it's distributing the glue underneath. And see, this edge is probably gonna keep being an issue, so I'm just gonna add the tiniest amount of glue. And this is a great place to use this as well because I don't want to burn myself. See, now this edge is being a little fun. It's usually the very bottom corners that just need a little bit of extra support. And so while I'm embellishing, this is a really good opportunity to talk about process versus outcome, which is, you know, a lot of the time when we do this, we're just so focused on what it's going to look like when it's done. And I could make this, and when I'm done, I could be like, ugh, actually, I don't really care for any of that design. But if I had a good time making it, that's what matters. Like, I definitely enjoy the process of going through what I already have to see how I might utilize what I have. Ooh, okay, so here's another corner. Actually, it's supposed to go like that, but it doesn't matter. So I'm gonna ink that again. See how this is different from just buying a journal at the store? Or being gifted one that you didn't even pick out. Now I can remember that I enjoyed myself while I was making this. There's something really satisfying about ripping paper, about deciding where you're going to put things, deciding in what way you're going to be a little experimental in your process. And obviously, if I'm putting these pieces here, I like it. So it's going to be visually appealing to me as well. I'm going to be more willing to pick it up and use it than, you know, like a plain spiral notebook that I could have purchased at the store. And if you're one of those people that likes to use those kind of notebooks, then great. Maybe you make it your own by adding stickers to the cover, or only using a certain set of pens while you're writing in it to make it, to kind of really hit home that it's a particular type of notebook or journal as opposed to something you would have used in school, you know? Like, I definitely didn't make pretty journals like this when I was in school. I used them, they got, you know, beaten up during a quarter, and then I maybe looked at them once or twice after that. Okay, let's see what else we've got. I could easily just stop here and be like, that looks cool, but I'm feeling like there needs to be something here. This is gonna bother me if I don't cover it, so I need to find something to use. And again, this is just my scraps. This is just one of the things of scraps that I use. I think I might actually pull something from this coloring book. Kitty. Penguin. This isn't the best coloring book I've ever purchased. I got it at the dollar store, so it's pretty flimsy. I don't know about that one. It's not striking me. Let's see about... maybe a sticker needs to go there. And some... oh, actually... yeah, why don't we try... ooh! That's what's nice about these clear sticker pages is you can... I immediately recognize that I like this pink rose. So I was kind of just moving it around to see where it would look best, kind of auditioning it, as it were, to see where it would look good. And I like it. Actually, hold on. I got a little brainwave. I want to put it on this paper. I don't know why, but here we are. And honestly, it doesn't matter why. That's another thing I talk to my clients about a lot. It's okay if you don't know. Like, sometimes, let's say you do figure it out, or you come up with an answer that seems to make sense to you. What would you do with that information afterward? How is that going to actually do anything? It's okay if you don't know. Where do I want this? Here? There, it's done. I definitely spend a little bit too much time sometimes trying to figure out where I'm going to stick these things, and you just have to go for it. I do like the seeing these little bits right there, so I'm going to leave that there. Okay, this can go back in here. So why, okay, I don't know if this will show up on screen, but because I put this thicker kind of cardstock paper down, this cover has become much more durable. So I know that if I put it in like a backpack or something and I do take it traveling, it's gonna be better than if I hadn't given it some TLC. Let's make a little nameplate real quick. And I actually have these pre-made from when I make journals that I sell on my Etsy shop. I'm gonna I usually put a mat under this of some sort. I'm gonna try to find another thicker piece of paper to use for that so that it is, again, reinforcing this cover. What am I gonna use? This was something I had made for another journal, and then I don't remember why, but I took the journal apart, and then I was left with all the signatures, which is just a fancy way of saying the paper that I used. So because I have so many ripped edges, I'm gonna rip this edge as well. And so here's a little tip. If you take your time to rip it towards you, you're holding on to it. You know, I don't move. How am I trying to say this? Like, if you just go, sometimes it works. It kind of depends on the paper, like that. See, it worked for that because it was a short piece I was tearing off. Otherwise, if you tear in little bits, it does tend to tear in the direction you wanted it to. You know how you can tear something and it was like, oh my gosh, it totally tore in the wrong spot or it tore too much, whatever. So if you tear towards yourself in little pieces like that, it usually works. And you just get better at it when you do it. Oh no! All right, I'm going to glue this guy down. And I use the nozzle to spread the glue so that it's covering more space. And you might notice that I have a propensity to line things up. I just like the way that that looks. You don't have to do that. I could have staggered this part here. But usually if I stagger, it's because I've got multiple layers, but I only had the 2 layers, so I want it to be lined up and centered. Oop, oh shoot. Sometimes you might not even put the journal plate on the front like this. It could be on the inside of it. Oh shoot. Oh well. It's part of what makes it interesting. I feel like there is an imbalance here. I think there needs to, this space is a little bit too empty. I'm gonna move on from the journal cover though. But again, like this could be your whole journal. Like maybe you just decorate the cover and then you move on and you use the blank pages however you will. Glue things down. Maybe an interesting quote. Let's do a quote real quick because I have been reading Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart. Really beautiful book, hardcover book. And this is one of those books where everything, like you could turn to any page and have a takeaway. Let's see. Like I love these quotes. Like let's say I don't have time to read too much. I could just flip to a page and I could probably glean some wisdom. I do like this. Let's make a little quote from that. Let me grab, I'm just gonna write that down really quickly so that I don't have to keep the book out. I'm worried about getting the book gross with all of my journaling stuff out. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's our greatest measure of courage. Okay. Put that off to the side. I could even just glue that in there, but if you really bother to make it pretty, to make it interesting to yourself, you're gonna remember that you wrote it. That's what I did with this one. This was another quote from that same book that I really liked, and I wanted to make something interesting so that it was more memorable to me. I remember the quote more if I bothered to make something like that. So let's find, what do I have in here? This is actually this really cute little notebook that my mom got me. Oh, how'd that get in there? That's not where that goes. See, here's some more paper bits. I don't know if I want to stick to the color theme that I have. Sorry, I'm listening to a sound upstairs. I'm like, what is that? Hold on. Okay, my husband needed something. Let's take a look in here. Oh, yeah, these are like pre-made tags that came with some paper that I purchased. Sometimes you can use these as journaling cards, like see how this one's blank on the back? You could write on there and then use a brad to put it into the journal. That way you can like turn it over and see on the back what you wrote. It's usually kind of like a good idea to do if you want to kind of like write something just for yourself in case you ever share something with someone and maybe you want to keep that to yourself, or I don't know. It's kind of like just a little secret. So none of that spoke to me. What about... Oh gosh. See, I don't even know how I was organizing these, like how I made the decision to put these things where I did. These are offcuts from other projects. Oh yeah. See, and sometimes you'll make things and you don't actually need them for what you're working on, so you just put them aside for another day. So maybe this is what that's for. Feel it. I feel it. Okay, let's write it down. Vulnerability is not weakness. See how left-handed I am? I have to like turn it all the way. They definitely tried to teach that out of me when I was in 5th grade. It's our greatest measure of courage. Quotes. And then if I pull something from another source, I definitely, you can tell this is the academic in me. I have to give credit. So that came from Brene Brown. I'm not gonna like write the APA citation, Atlas of the Heart, especially because it changes all the time. It's probably like the way that I would have done it in the past is probably not even correct anymore. It's just hilarious that they have to change the citation formatting every few years so that they can sell a new book about, okay, this is gonna drive me nuts. See how, no, I'm gonna work with it. I'm gonna work with it. I'm leaning into the discomfort that gives me. It doesn't need to be fixed. But yeah, every few years they have to sell a new book about APA citation formatting, so they change the rules. Like, oh hey, we moved periods. Now they have to be before the quotation mark instead of after, or something like that. Ridiculous. It's another reason I don't feel like going back to getting my doctorate. I'm like, ugh. I worked so hard for what I already have. I'm good. And okay, so there's some space we can play with. I'm gonna take out the stickers again. Let's see if we have anything. I think the reason I'm being drawn to these kind of colors right now because it's, you know, we're coming into spring. So I'm feeling like, oh, that's actually really cute. I'll hold on to that. Maybe I'll use that one in a second. We've got some more spring, but those aren't calling to me. Yeah, okay. I do tend to sometimes like to stay in the same color family, just because that's a little more appealing to the eye as well. And again, this is my eye. I'm not necessarily making this for anyone else. But I love teal, so I think I'm gonna choose this one. Just adds a little extra pizzazz. I don't like it on the yellow. Maybe the pink, because I already have some pink. Okay. Let's glue this sucker. And I do, if you're going to journal for self-care, for inspiration, to kind of do some of your own mental health work, I really do recommend that you take some time to find quotes like this that resonate and put it into your journals, reflect on them. This one called out to me because I am a very vulnerable person. I don't have any issue with self-disclosure. I definitely try to filter when I'm self-disclosing, depending on who I'm talking to. But this was really hard for me when I was in grad school. You know, when you're in grad school for mental health counseling, it's really easy to get dysregulated during class. A lot of things come up. You're learning a lot about yourself. And I was always the first person in class to cry about some sort of discovery I had made, some connection I had made between the course material and my own life. So I was always crying. But because of that, he usually set the stage for other people to also be as open and sharing. And we all learned from each other by sharing that kind of vulnerability. So there we have it, really. Now you have an idea of what we can do. I might go back and make some more videos about filling this up, like other crafting ways that we can fill this up, more ways that we can engage in self-care, utilizing these kinds of journals that we make ourselves. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful, helpful. If you think you know someone else who would find this really interesting and informative, please do send the link to this video their way, and just spread the love, spread the goodness, spread the self-care, and I hope that you join me again for other videos, because I think I'm going to do more of these. All right, everyone, take good care.